All right, what's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast weekly real estate tip. And today I'm here to talk to you about the 2023 real estate housing recession that we are in and where the opportunities currently lie for you as a real estate professional, so realtor, team leader, broker owner, to go out there and continue to grow and scale your business during this real estate recession that we are in, where the opportunities are at, and where there's going to continue to be more and more opportunities to be had. Now, the first thing I want to say is this, because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I don't want to create any confusion. I know a lot of times when we hear the word real estate recession, a lot of us are thinking then automatically that means prices are coming down, that the real estate market is crashing in regards to pricing. That is not what I'm speaking of here, even though that definitely could become the result at some point in the future. None of us have a crystal ball. We don't know when that's going to be, but I'm not here talking about prices. When I say recession, real estate recession, what I'm speaking to is the transaction volume decline that we are all experiencing, right? So when we look at a recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of declined GDP. Now, in real estate, we've now had 17 straight months of declined transactions taking place month over month. It continues to grow, continues to expand, and I'll break down some of the reasons as to why. And that really leads us into where these opportunities are at today. And a lot of these are things that you guys might already know. What you may not know is where these opportunities are to be had. So that's what I'm speaking of, not necessarily prices. This has nothing to do with the prices that we are experiencing. What I'm talking about is transaction volume count. In most markets, if you look at nationwide across the United States, transaction volume is down roughly 37% year over year. Right. And if we look at that, I mean, really, that's not just a market correction. That is a market crash, because a crash is defined as anything beyond 20% on the negative. Right. So that really puts us into real estate crash mode. And again, not speaking of prices, we're talking about transaction volume closings. How many actual units are closing month over month versus what that normal trend line is. So we're going to jump into this. And what I like to always focus on as much as possible on these real estate tips is to give you tactical advice, strategic advice of not what are the problems that we're facing, but what the hell to go out there and do and not just survive, but thrive during these times. One thing that's important to understand is there's always massive opportunity to be had, but the real estate professionals that I'm seeing right now just getting demolished, that are getting ran over, that are just getting hammered, are those that are not pivoting and adapting to these changing times. Look, if you want to go out there and make good, consistent income year over year, not only must you have good, consistent habits, showing up each and every day, doing the work, all of those things are very, very important. But that is not enough when it comes to keeping your business up and growing your business year over year. You also must have the ability to go out there and read markets and pivot accordingly. What worked yesterday, so what worked over the last 10 years, isn't necessarily what is going to work today. All right, so before we begin on this, I just want to plug our sponsors that make all of this possible, which is GSD Mode. Go check out gsdmode.com. And on there, you can check out my personal coaching and mentorship program. On there, if you go to gsdmode.com, click that coaching tab, there's an in-depth, 20 or 30 minute video. You don't have to opt in for it, but just walks you through what my mentorship program is, what my coaching and mentorship program, entails, answers any of the questions that you have there. And on there, there's 2 different options that you have. One, you can book a private call with me personally, 100% zero pressure, to ask any questions that you have. Or we'll also discuss your business and different ways that you can go out there and expand your business, whether my coaching program is for you or not, or whether you're able to do it today or not. Regardless, I want to make sure that call is powerful for you, so you can schedule that 100% zero pressure call with me, or you can go ahead and sign up and jump right in the program, and we can help you get your business rocking right away. Also, make sure at gsdmode.com there's more additional free resources, free training. You can check out a demo of my personal software, Perfect Storm, see what that is all about. Okay, so with that being said, check out gsdmode.com. Let's get into the content at hand. So let's first talk about the state of the economy, the state of the market that we are in, and this is going to lead directly to where these opportunities lie. As I just said a moment ago, our ability to go out there and create consistent good income and continue to grow and scale our businesses year over year, regardless of the marketplace, comes down to our ability not to just execute, but make sure that we're executing on the right plan. So therefore, we must then be able to read the different markets and where those opportunities are at. Because I want you to understand there is no such thing as a good market or a bad market. The market is always good for somebody. It's our job as real estate professionals to identify whom the market is good for and then pivot, shift, and adapt accordingly to whom the market is good for. You know, I was having a conversation earlier this week with one of my friends. Her name's Ann. She's been in this business well over 40 years. So this is somebody that saw, you know, in the late 70s and early 80s with interest rates, you know, above 80 or above 20%. She saw the 87 crash. She saw the dot-com bubble crash, right? She saw 9/11, saw the great financial crisis, saw COVID, saw, you know, all of this, and has had a great career, you know, through these last 40 plus years. And I asked her, I said, you know, Ann, based on all your knowledge, all your experience, what is your assessment of where the market currently is at and where do you think this is going? And she said to me, she's like, look, I don't think of it that way, and it does not matter to me at the end of the day. She's like, it's either going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go sideways. Either way, I'm a student of the game, man. I'm going to go out there and identify where the market is going. I'm going to adopt the skill sets that I need to adopt. I'm going to pivot and adapt accordingly. And I'm going to go out there and create success regardless, right? So that's just a great life lesson for somebody that's been kicking ass at this for over 4 decades, right? So that comes down to, again, the market's always good for somebody. We must be able to have that ability to identify whom the market is good for. So why are we experiencing this low-level transaction volume decline? And again, these are going to lead directly into where these opportunities are at now today. And also, I truly believe that we are in the infancy stages of these opportunities that I'm going to share with you today. These are going to continue as long as these trends continue that we're seeing right now, which there's no evidence otherwise of them continuing. These are going to just continue to grow and expand and create more massive opportunities for those of us that choose to go out there and take advantage of this and pivot accordingly. All right, so we have mortgage rates at 22-year highs right now. So when we break this down with, you know, prices being at or close to all-time real estate highs, then on top of that, when you look at mortgage rates being at 22-year highs, right, that has created the most unaffordable real estate has ever been in recorded history. So then on top of that, we got record high property taxes, right? We got record high insurance costs. So we got, you know, not just costs of houses and costs of mortgages going up, but even for those, because, you know, there's so, you know, there's, I can't remember off the top of my head the exact percentage of mortgagees, you know, those that have a home, that have a mortgage that are locked in at lower rates. But even at that, man, insurance is going up, taxes are going up, maintenance, cost of labor, materials, all of that stuff continues to go up. So we got record high property taxes, we got record high insurance costs, we got record high food prices. So life just continues to go up, and, you know, continues that, right? So, I mean, if we look at life today versus just pre-COVID, so, you know, just over, you know, what, 3 short years ago, life today is well over 35% more expensive. So $1 today is worth about between 60 and 65 cents. You know, our dollar back then, so just 3 short years ago, is worth about 65 cents now today, right? So life has gotten more expensive. Life has gotten more challenging. Then when we look at this, the amount of debt that people are obtaining, and debt on all fronts. You got consumer debt. We just experienced the largest year-over-year increase in consumer debt in recorded history. You know, 7.55% year over year just on the consumer debt side. Now, a lot of people will hear that and say, well, that's just because mortgages and the price of houses. So yeah, people are taking on debt. Even if you omit that and eliminate the mortgage held debt and just look at all the other debt, credit card debt, medical debt, student loan debt, all of those are also skyrocketing at record levels and are hitting levels that we've never seen before. So if you look at the average consumer today, they are maxed out with their credit cards, right? Highest credit card debt that we've ever seen, plus other elements of debt, and record low savings, right? So the average person is just getting pinched, just getting squeezed out when it comes to this. Now, the other thing, when I was talking about a recession earlier, and the housing recession that we are in, you know, this is where I am not as optimistic as most when it's, oh, well, this is just going to continue. You know, the arguments that I always hear is, oh, it's a supply and demand thing. You know, we have low supply, even though, yes, we have a low amount of supply when it comes to listings on the market available today, of course, you know, in most markets. But I'm not convinced at all that when you look at the number of actual housing units out there versus the amount of population that exists out there, that there's really an oversupply problem. Right. So the arguments that I always hear, I'm like, those are very superficial arguments that don't lead me to believing that we are in a good space, right? When we look at all these different elements, we're not in as good a space. And I'm not going to break all of those down here in this video. I've got other recent videos that I've created, other recent podcasts I've created where I've discussed that. But I want you to know and understand that there's only 3 ways to grow GDP growth. And if we look at overall recession timeframes, we talked about the housing recession that we're in right now, which we're 100% in, but let's talk about an economic recession. So in order to eliminate or not be inside of a recession, we have to have positive GDP growth quarter after quarter, year after year. There's only 3 ways to achieve positive GDP growth. Number 1, you got population growth, right? So continued population growth. So continued population growth then leads to more consumption, which is going to lead to more GDP growth. Well, we've turned the time on this, right? And for the first time in any of our lifetimes. Now, this isn't just like a yesterday thing. This has been, gradual change here. But we are now on the population decline, not just here in the U.S., but also on a global scale. In other countries at a much more heavier scale than we are here in the United States. But let's just speak to the United States because I know that's where most of you are. Now, keep in mind, the United States has one of the most healthy demographies that exists right now in the United States, but I want you to see how unhealthy it actually is. To maintain our population in the United States, we would need to essentially have 2.1 children per couple. So to break that down, it's like, okay, I got my wife and I. If we were to have 2.1 kids, right, that would then maintain current population growth, right? Now, you might be asking, well, why is it 2.1, not just 2? Because you've replaced yourselves, right? Well, unfortunately, not all kids, make it for a long period of time. There's some, unfortunate circumstances, situations that happen there. So just to maintain population growth, 2.1 kids per couple. We are currently at 1.66. So we have a shrinking population. Our population is not growing. It is actually shrinking. It's just shrinking at a lesser level than most other countries out there, like China, who has twice as many 15-year-olds as they do 5-year-olds. They got more 80-year-olds and 70-year-olds and 60-year-olds. They have a complete inverted pyramid. China is actually the fastest aging population, fastest aging civilization in recent recorded history that we have record of. Okay, so you got number 1, population growth, which that is X'd out of the equation, right? So that is not contributing to GDP. Okay, number 2, we have increased productivity. Now, we just hit the lowest productivity per worker in the history of the United States. And this is this is going on everywhere, right? So this isn't just, confined to just the United States issue, but our productivity per worker is massively on the decline. So this is out of the window as well. Now, that may turn around after, a decade or 2 with AI and other things, but as of right now, productivity is on the decline. Okay, so then the third way to maintain GDP growth so then that we don't go into a recession or a depression is through debt, right? This is public and private sector debt. And this is what's been happening since 2008. This is why some of the most brilliant minds when it comes to money that exist out there say that we are truly in a silent depression. Because if you looked at since 2008, you haven't had 1 or 2 taken place. It's all been through number 3 here through debt creation. This is why you've seen the Treasury's balance sheet, our government debt just continuing to explode year over year over year over year. This is also why the Federal Reserve's balance sheet has increased exponentially since 2008. So we've been in this artificial economy where it's just been this money printing. If we just want to reduce it and simplify it, it's due to money printing, monetization of debt. That our whole entire system is built off of. So many people think that the great financial crisis, was a tough time. We recovered from that we've had a strong economy ever since. Been a couple of blips in there, since. But look, this isn't an elongated issue. It's like that problem was never fixed. We haven't got population growth under control yet and got that turned around. We haven't got increased productivity turned around. It is just monetization of debt. Now, when people ask me, well, what's the timeline? What's your expectation of when this market will turn? Well, I don't know. How long can we just keep going at the printing presses? I know that there's been 500 fiat currencies prior to the US dollar. They've all suffered the same damn fate. I don't know how long this continue where we can just print money, and just monetize all of our debt and just have all this artificial stimulus going on. This is also why our life is 40% more expensive today than it was just 3 years ago, because if you look at it, roughly 40% of all US dollars to ever exist were printed in the last 3 years. Right. And the more money that is out there chasing fewer goods, it creates inflation, and there's other things that go into it. I know I'm just very, really simplifying it here. But all of these things are creating a more difficult time, right? So there's two options that the powers that be have. They can continue down this path to try to keep us out of a recession or out of a depression by creating more money and growing debt on the balance sheets. And that's the path that they've chosen here. So they can either stop that and we go through a very difficult time and we got to face the music and let free markets do their thing, or they continue down this path. But based on my assessment, and I'm not trying to say that I'm the end-all, be-all, know-all here, but just with my study of history and study of economies and other economies and, being the little bit of the history buff that I am, both paths eventually lead to the same destination. It's just one is faster, one is slower, right? So with this current path that we are on, it is crushing the average person. It is crushing the middle class, right? So like who can partake in the real estate market today? It's pretty much your upper middle class. It's your affluent. It's the wealthy, right? It's like pretty much your middle, average middle class, lower middle class. They're just getting squeezed in a tighter position. So with all that being said then, where's that creating massive opportunities at for us as real estate professionals to go out there and grow and expand our business today? So I'm looking at this, I'm always, okay, who has the need, who has the motivation, who has the desire, the desperation, however you want to look at those things, but who needs our services at the highest possible level? So let me first start off with NODs, notice of defaults. So as of right now today, there's roughly just over 84 million mortgages in the United States. You've got almost 3%, it's about 2.8% some change, so just under 3 million of all of the mortgages that are in the United States currently in 30 plus or days or more of default. So that's about 3 million mortgages right now that are in default. And this is going to continue to rise, continue to expand, because inflation isn't going to stop, right? At least on the necessities. Inflation is not going to stop on the necessities if this continues, right? It's just how this process goes. And there's no shortage of historical evidence for us to go off of with this. When economies are restricted and they make the decision to just grow their economies through monetization of debt, right? Like inflation is just that end result. And when you look at the debt that the government is in and the Fed is in, a lot of them believe that their way out of this, for them to hold their control, hold their power, whatever, is through inflation, right? Because it shrinks the amount of that debt, right? Inflation, you guys have all heard, is a hidden tax. So okay, we got the necessity of life. So when you got food, you got, again, insurance, you got taxes, like the necessities that we need to go out there and live with are going to continue to get more and more expensive. So even, I hear all the time of, all these people have low mortgages, they could just refi, they could pull cash out. Look, if you're already struggling to maintain life as it is, we're not going to be able to refi. You're not going to be able to pull that cash out at a higher interest rate and be able to afford that. You're probably not going to qualify to refi anyways because of the extra debt. Your debt to income ratios are going to be thrown off. So we're going to see more and more people continue to get squeezed. This 3 million that we have right now that are in 30 plus days of default is, in my opinion, if this unless the powers that be change their course, which either way, NODs are going to be a massive opportunity, because if they cut off, this debt spending out here, or creating, this artificial economy through monetization of debt, okay, we're going to see businesses, starting to crumble, which we already kind of are a little bit, right? But we're going to see much more of that, people losing more jobs. So either path that they go, these NODs are going to continue to expand and continue to be a huge opportunity for us. Now, if you're going to go after NODs, right? Because think about this, an NOD is just somebody that is experiencing a hardship and know they have to make a decision of, hey, do I put food on the table for my family, or do I continue paying my mortgage payment, right? Like, if we just simplify this, that's what it breaks down to, right? So, people are going to start letting go of their homes, especially look at all these people that purchased. And when you look at, the research that NAR has done, what's it, 70% or more of millennials, or it might even be well beyond that bought their home since COVID, have buyer's remorse already. So how long are they going to suffer the pain of going through this before they're like, fuck it, I'm just going to default on this thing, let the bank take it over, let the bank go back to it. Now, with NODs, I will say this, right? You're going to have a percentage of people that are in default to the bank that you as a real estate professional can go out there and help and sell. And they have an abundance of equity still where they can come whole with the bank, have enough equity to sell, pay commissions, pay all their fees, and have enough money left over where you can help them go get a rental, help them, whatever, and save them from a foreclosure and losing on the equity. So there's going to be a contingent of them that are going to be in that position. But in most markets, anybody that's really bought since late 2020, early 2021, they're going to be in a short sell position. So if you're going to go after NODs, notice the defaults, make sure that you're also versed on short sales, because there's going to be a contingent of those, that have to go out there and suffer those. This is why I've got the question, from a lot of people over the years of, Josh, why do you teach your coaching clients how to do short sales? And even in like 2017, 18, 19, right, where there was very few short sales taking place. And I was like, look, dude, I want all my coaching clients to be extremely well versed. I want them to know how to work with traditional buyers and sellers. I want them to know how to go out there and optimize and maximize past client repeat referrals. I want them to know how to go out there and hunt for themselves and get massive amounts of new business, whether that coming from, whatever that lead source maybe Facebook ads, YouTube channels, cold calling, whatever that prospecting or marketing source is. Like, we need to be well-rounded, because at some point in your career, you are going to face these. So I need to be like, okay, man, I know how to be very effective in a seller's market with traditional buyers and sellers. I know how to be very effective in a buyer's market or declining market with buyers and sellers. I need to be well versed on how to go out there and do short sales. I need to be well versed on how to go out there and obtain investor clients and work with investor clients. Like, we need to be well versed on all of it, which allows us to pivot and shift in these different markets. All right, so that's NODs, right? And so hopefully all that makes sense. Then we got investors themselves. And when I'm speaking to investors themselves here, I'm talking about investor landlords that own these properties that are starting to need our help unloading these properties. So we, for the first time right now, are starting to experience, and have been for a little bit of time, but it's just continuing to grow, what is called cap rate compression. So what that means is these cap rates that these investors acquired this property on are starting to diminish very fast, right? So you got 57 out of the top 100 metros in the United States where rents are significantly down year over year. And even if rents aren't down, let's just say rents are staying stable, and you got property taxes going up, you got insurance going up. I was talking or listening to an investor the other day that was talking about some of his properties in South Florida. His insurance had increased 3 to 4x on some of these properties year over year. So all of these things start to compress those cap rates, compress those returns on those cap rates. But let's say you're in a market like mine here in Phoenix Metro, right? Phoenix Metro is one of those 57 of the top 100 metros where rents are coming down and down. We're down about 6% year over year, right? So if I was at a 10% cap rate and nothing else changed with that property, and now I got a, tenant moves out, I got to replace them with a new tenant, and now rents are down 6%. That took my 10% cap rate, which is a decent, healthy cap rate for a single family attached rental. Now that's taking that down to 4%. Well, if my property taxes are up, whatever, my insurance is gone up, maintenance starts going up, right? Well, then I went from, a 10% cap rate to now very quickly a 2% cap rate, right? And it continues to compress. It continues to compress. We got another 1.8 million rental units coming online here over the next 18 months between apartments and housing units. So this is just a trend now that is going to continue to take place. So I'm looking at investors and targeting investors for these listings, because in a market like this, of course, I want as many listings as I possibly can get. I'm going to be targeting your short-term vacation rentals, because those are hot right now, man. You've got short-term vacation rentals, occupancy rates at all-time lows, right? So that means these people are not getting the cash flows. This kind of became a fad thing, especially post-COVID. You had about 50% of all short-term vacation rentals nationwide that were acquired post-COVID. You got about 1.3 million short-term vacation rentals throughout the United States, and at least half of those right now are getting crushed, right? So this is a great way to go out there and see if you can help them, see if you can serve them, by going out there and gaining these, gaining that listings and helping them out with that, right? Then you got long-term regular buy and hold rentals for the same reasons, right? Because that cap rate compression. So when we're reaching out to these investors, right, we're going to explain to them, hey, what's going on, what we're seeing out here, what's taking place. They're seeing it too. They're feeling it. They're running their P&Ls. They're seeing it, so we're able to go out there and educate them on this. They get that understanding that we're an expert in this. We understand this, right? And a lot of these are making that decision right now to sell at close close or, at or close to peak markets. So before this thing gets too ugly for them, right? So again, this is going to be another, it already currently is, these are a massive big market to go after right now. These investor clients, massive big market to go after right now. Again, this is why I teach my coaching clients how to go out there and do this and work with investors, whether it be on the buy side, whether it be on the list side, at a high level, provide all the necessary scripts and whatnot so we can be well versed with this. All right, so and if you look at single family detached investor owned units throughout the United States right now, there's about 17 million of those, right? Well, about 80% of those are owned by just the general public. These aren't big institutional investor, owned properties. Even though my prediction is a lot of these institutional investors will start unloading some of these, is they're gonna. If we look at just if we just watch history during down markets, institutional investors start unloading their low performing assets, right? So I see that coming here at some point in the future. I don't know timelines on this stuff, but if these trends continue, definitely see that. That's something that we tend to see in these kinds of markets. But what I'm speaking to here right now today is this 80% that are owned by regular people like you and me, just normal people that are adding a rental property or two or three, to their overall kind of investment portfolio to help them build wealth. They're not these mega investors or mega multimillionaires or multi-billionaires or, whatever. They're just regular human beings, dude, that, have these rental properties and now they're filling that squeeze. The other thing when it comes to investors, I was just reminded about this from a good friend of mine who's been in the game for a long time, who also is a personal big investor himself. He was like, look, another great approach with this is make sure that you know all your laws, especially since COVID. There's been so many new laws put in place that are not in the landlord's favors. So make sure that you're educated on that and having a conversation about new laws are being passed, because depending on where you're at, how, what political stance your state takes, some of these investor laws, dude, are getting, very pro-tenant and making it very, very difficult, for these investors, where it's getting that much, it's discouraging regular people to go out there and hold investor properties. Okay, so then from there, lastly, we got absentee owners. And when I say absentee owners here, what I'm speaking specifically to is those homeowners that have a second, third, or fourth home. Now, these are for their own personal use. So not talking Airbnbs, not talking, long-term, rentals. Here we're talking about, okay, they bought a secondary home or third home, a vacation home, a seasonal, home that they're using for themselves to go out there. Like let's just say a snowbird is a popular one in my area that maybe they spend 6-7 months out of the year in the Midwest. They come out here for 4 to 5 months, for the winter months to get out of that cold winter that they're experiencing there. Well, because even though a lot of these have low to no mortgages on these properties, right? Because all the things that we talked about before, most of these were, are baby boomers. The vast majority of baby boomers now have entered retirement. Like we've hit that inflection point where the vast majority now, well over 50%, are now retirement age. So they're on fixed incomes there. Then from there, they got property taxes going up, HOAs going up, insurance going up, maintenance going up, utilities going up, cost of life going up. A lot of them are starting to get in that position where they have to choose a primary home. And what I like about this now, like in my market here in Phoenix, Arizona, a lot of them might choose to say, hey, well, I'm going to have Arizona as my primary home. Doesn't mean I can lose out on that, right? It's, hey, well, do you have a great listing agent, a great real estate professional that you're working with in XYZ state, XYZ area, wherever they're at? Well, I can go out there and do that introduction, right? And still get paid a referral fee on that, but I'm developing those relationships, all the way throughout this. So these are 3 great opportunities where if you guys hit this, and hit these, you target these with your prospecting approaches right now, there's no reason why you can't go out there and list a listing a week, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, even as an individual agent, if you are targeted. But right now is a market where we have to be laser targeted. And I was just having a conversation with a buddy of mine the other day. And I was like, look, dude, for most of my career, and I've been doing this about 18 years now, and I'm like, for most of my career, it's been, if you went really deep on 1, 2, or 3 things, like you could just go out there and slay. If you mastered those, did those consistently, and just crushed those few things, you could do really well with those. Right now, this is a market where we might have to do a multi-pronged approach. At least I definitely am, right? Like meaning, I can't just rely on past client repeat referral business, because we got about 50% of the consumers that have just been wiped out of this market because it's the most unaffordable time to be alive in the United States history right now today. So you got about half the market that's just like, hey, I just can't do this, or they just aren't willing to do this. Those that I know that just were so reliant on past client repeat referrals, or just so reliant on one source, most of their business is down 40, 50, 60% right now. So it's got to be this multi-pronged multi-pronged approach. It's like, comment like, okay, we're also hitting expires and FSBOs right now, but there's less FSBOs and expires than there are normal because of the low transaction and low inventory environment. So this is why it's like, okay, hey, man, we're hitting YouTube, we're hitting targeted Facebook ads, we're hitting open houses, we're hitting FSBOs, we're hitting expires, we're hitting, these NODs and investor strategies and absentee owner strategies. It's that multi-pronged approach. We got to do a little bit more now and kind of widen our strategies, but being laser focused with those strategies to go out there and grow our business and grow our clientele. And last month, we had a record month that we've ever had as far as a team, record sales, record whatever, even though transaction volume is massively down in our market. So anyway, I hope that this is helpful for you guys. Make sure that you're seeing these opportunities, make sure that you're pivoting, make sure that you're attacking these. And again, if you need help growing your business and scaling your business and going out there, making sure you hit your goals and kicking ass as an agent, team leader, or brokerage owner, make sure to check out gsdmode.com. Go to that coaching tab. You can check out that information there. If you have additional questions for me, you can schedule a 100% zero pressure private call with me personally. It'll be me and you on that call. I don't have, it's not going to be delegated out to other people. And the reason why I bring that up is that number one, comment I get when I jump on those calls. I can't believe it was you, that jumped on. Yeah, you're going to be talking with me, man. We're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about your business. So yeah, we'll talk about answer any questions that you have about my coaching program and how I can help you get dialed in and make your real estate goals a reality. But whether my program's for you or not, I want to make sure that you get a ton of value out of this call. So we're going to talk about where your business is at, where your goals are, what your biggest obstacles are, and I'll help guide you through what that looks like. So whether my program is for you or not, we'll help you get dialed in and help you get kicking ass. So gsdmode.com, click that coaching tab. Again, you can either check that out, sign up for my coaching, or schedule a one-on-one call with me personally, and we'll help you get dialed in. All right, you guys, keep crushing it, keep kicking ass. I'll see you next time. Peace.